Maybe you've been thinking about homeschooling or unschooling, and we're going to talk about the definition, but you've thought, man, I'm not qualified. I can't, I don't even remember high school math. How in the world am I supposed to teach my own children? Today, I'm going to have a mom to mom talk about what unschooling and homeschooling has been like for me for the past 17 years. I'm a mom of 6 kids, and we have not yet gone into public school. And I want to tell you the story as to why. And because it's full of vulnerability, this story. It is full of worry and concern, and it is full of magic, of wonderment, of mind blowing ahas. So let me tell you, first off, why we decided to not put our kids into public school. Both my husband and I grew up in public school systems. We both have college degrees. We were both lucky enough to be in families that could afford to make all of that happen. But we hated public school with a passion. I'm not, for me, I'm just going to talk for myself. He can get on a podcast and share his story if he wants. But honestly, I had so much anxiety around school. I had lots of health issues because of that. I remember in third grade, I had such tremendous anxiety because I had a really cool teacher, but he was very much wired for math and science. And those were areas that I really struggled with. I had a little bit of dyslexia and num I would just feel lost and overwhelmed. And it was really hard being in this environment where that was really the only thing that was valued is how good you were at math and science kinds of things. And I felt so lost and so dumb. And I ended up being out of sick, quote unquote, sick for a quarter of the school year because of recurring stomach issues. So much so that my parents sent me to specialists, and I was on weird elimination diets and things to help my digestive system calm down. It's called anxiety, people. It's called severe anxiety. And yet, oh, don't we just love to give it some other kind of special name? Surely there's some diagnosis, a pill, a different diet that you can be on to get you through. No, you're just stressing your kids out. And that's the thing that I felt for myself, and I hated it. But being the rule follower that I was brought up to be, when it came to us having our children, and our eldest was approaching kindergarten, we seriously had to look at what we were going to do. Now, our eldest, he he was kind of special. We knew that he was not going to fit in really well with other kids, and that most likely he might get bullied, and we just didn't was like this does not seem like a nice thing to do to our child. To throw him in a den of lions is really what it felt like. And that led my husband on a quest to kind of understand the school system. And he started reading, and he ran across a book by Dr. Peter Gray called Free to Learn. So I'm going to put this in the show notes, so don't worry. And this book blew our minds wide open, and it introduced us to something called unschooling. I had never heard of unschooling before. I was fortunate enough to have my sister as a great example of a family who homeschooled their kids. They had their children in private school system for a couple years and just realized it was not helping them, that they needed to learn at their own pace, some of them faster, some of them a little slower. However, it worked best for them to get them to be less stressed out and to be happier. So I had homeschooling as a clear example of someone in my life doing that and it working really well for them. And then when my husband brought up something that's just a step to the left, more radical, or left, I don't know, left, right, up, down, whatever. It was just a little more outside the box. It was amazing. So I read the book and what it brought forth. So the summary that I remember from, oh gosh, 12 years ago, I guess, was that how we learn is very different than the way that the public school system is set up to do it. And, the way, when you're educating the masses, you are not so concerned with educating the individual. And also, that's something else. Education. That's just a good thing to look at and say, what is it that is important to learn? And when you get to guide that education, that learning with your children, you get to have more input on what they learn. And I know some people are like, well, hey, what am I supposed to do? We have to live on two incomes. I have to go to work. I have to send my kids to public school so that we can live. I hear you. I totally hear you. But I want to lay before you some alternatives. Like maybe it could be different. Maybe it could. And I very soon want to do an episode on how to quit your job and stay at home with your kids, because that is a message so many women need to hear. I want to share my story with you and how other friends of mine who I've seen opting out of the full-time working, of corporate living, and choosing to restructure their homes so that they can be present and raising their children. It's really, really cool and beautiful, and we get to choose. And the thing is you get to choose. Hooray. Okay, so we learn so much differently than the public school system is set up to do. And when you get to help guide your children in what is important for what do they need to know? And I am eternally grateful for my husband, he questions everything. And sometimes that can be infuriating. But for the most part, it has been invaluable because it has taught me to not just say, oh, yes, okay. That's the way to do it. Oh, is that okay? I'll stand in this line. Why are we standing in this line? I don't know, but they said to. And I was like, well, is this line even necessary? I'll get more specific. But the point is really, what do you need to know? Can you recollect what you needed to know that you took with you from your schooling years, K through 12? What do you use every day or once a week that has been so important to you? So the one thing that I can think of is reading and writing, being able to write something and hopefully be able to read what you wrote. Yeah, penmanship. I don't even know if is that even taught these days? Penmanship? Possibly. I don't know. And but typically that and really basic math skills. I'm talking third grade. I How old am I? And that's all I ever use. That's all I ever use. Now, I'm not into woodworking and I don't build shelves and circular tables and birdhouses. I don't know. Or buildings. I don't utilize my geometry. But guess what? There's something beautiful called YouTube that if I ever had a question on it, I bet I could find a tutorial and it would teach me. And that's the other thing that really convinced me that my husband wasn't crazy and that unschooling my kids was a good idea. At the time, I was a self-taught photographer. And when he brought it up to me and said, how do you learn anything that you want to know? And what are you talking about? Like, as an adult, how do you go about learning anything you want to know? Well, I get a book or I look it up. I look it up because that's all you need. There's so much free information out there. There's so many programs, YouTube, and tutorials and articles and anything about anything. If you want to learn about it, you want to learn about beekeeping? Awesome. Do you need to go to school to learn about How about sourdough? Huh? Making sourdough can be complicated. It's like a living, breathing thing. And surely you must be certified to be able to make a loaf of sourdough bread. Are you certified? Are you allowed to make sourdough? And I mean, that's how I eventually got to the point of like, oh my gosh, could I cut my own hair? Is that allowed? Grab the scissors. Have fun. Go for it. Have a ball. Try it out. Guess what? You are not There's so many ways that we are taught, we are programmed into thinking that we have to follow a script in order to survive. I think that's the main thing, that we have to follow this script in order to, they tell us it's about being successful. Okay, you have to make sure you check all of these boxes. Now you went to you've graduated every level of elementary school and secondary school. Now you're on to college. And okay, now you got your degree, tick. All right, now you're working in some kind of corporate office, tick. Okay, that's successful. There you are, a cog in a wheel. Good job, way to go. Okay, and now you got married in your house. Anyway, you see where I'm going. It's a program that is designed to make really good workers, but for life to kind of pretty much suck. So much so that we have to medicate ourselves constantly through whether that's alcohol, Netflix binging, social media, constantly scrolling, uh, all the different things, pharmaceuticals, whatever, antidepressants, you name it. All of those things are socially acceptable ways of finding some kind of release and relaxation from the monotony of a programmed life. Am I getting very alternative for you? Yeah, you're either going to love this episode or you're just going to hate it. And that's totally fine because um because it's like just my opinion, man. Actually, I think it's more than that. To me, it's my personal truth and which is subjective. But what I found, so okay, yeah, so let's go back to the story. So we didn't enroll our children in public school, and I kind of held my breath a little bit. And at times I was like, well, maybe I should get some kind of workbooks to help my kids work through, like, do school at home. So that's a common thing of homeschooling families often basically just duplicate what the school system is doing as far as the format, the education, the things that they're supposed to learn, the curriculum. But they just make their kids sit at the kitchen table and force them to do it. And then they can go and play if they get all their stuff done. And again, I think that there's a fault in that. Honestly, what are they learning and why? So, I mean, I certainly may not be doing it perfectly. I'm not saying I have to. I don't have to do it perfectly. I can just do it the way that works for us. And that's what you need to do as well. Some people really, really think it's important for their children to have a classical education. So they're going to learn Latin and they're going to study the Greeks and the Romans and all the different Western civilization and all that up through. And some people, here's my point as to why. How do we know what is important to learn? What about the Chinese? I never really learned about ancient Chinese history. Surely those people were doing some incredible things back 5,000 years ago. I mean, they have a vibrant, rich, very, very old culture and history. But how come that's not important and yet learning about all the different Greek gods is vital? Is that simply because, well, we're in the Western culture and so we need to know how our culture is based on? Or is that just arbitrary? And that's what I kind of think it is. I kind of think it's arbitrary. And so there's just these people, somebody said, no, no, this is important. Or just like the classic literature that we read. We're not really reading from other cultures so much. I mean, of older books, the classics, they're all, ones that we're familiar with, Charles Dickens, Shakespeare, whatnot. But why? Who said that those were the important? What about all the other books? Are they just garbage? Huh. Makes you think. So when you line all of that stuff up and you go, well, I don't know. What should we be teaching our kids? Okay, here's the basics. Reading and fundamental math. And now you've got everything covered. I wrote a little list of a couple things that people, it'd be like arguments, someone asking you or saying, no, no, I can't homeschool or unschool my kids, and here's my reasons why. So, first off, my kids won't be socialized. Can I tell you that that's a total fib? How we are designed as human beings is to be socialized in an all ages culture. You know, we longer than anything else, we've lived tribally, and we lived with relatives of all different ages and other families with kids of all different ages. And kids were not segregated by age into classrooms where they were forced to hold still and listen and sit and follow directions. Like they actually would learn by playing, and that's exactly what I've seen happen with my kids. They learn so much by actually doing things, having the freedom to be curious and innovate, as opposed to having the creativity and the inquiry squished out of them by public school systems or even curriculum. I'm just going to say it, anything like that. That's my opinion. And I have seen, um, yeah. And as far as socialization goes, I think I think everybody should be having big families. I do. I do not believe that we are overpopulated. People that believe that are looking at small pockets of the world who are there, whose governments and countries are not taking care of them at all. And that's what needs to be addressed. But as far as us in the Western world, we got a lot of space. We have so many resources. Do you imagine the kind of people that we could be bringing into this world, that we could be raising if we actually invested in them and we didn't warehouse them off to public schools or daycares, but that we actually like gave them our very best? Wouldn't that be amazing? It's incredible. Okay, so socialization, you have big families, your kids learn how to lead and how to follow, how to work together and get along despite age differences. And also, like I said, where in the world do you ever see groups of just age 6 year olds or 12-year olds segregated in these clumps, all put together? Nowhere. It's like a prison system. That is modern day school. Shove them into these things, create lots of rules and boundaries on behavior and what they're allowed to do. There is hardly any freedom and there's no creative thinking. And there is absolutely no free thinking. You are allowed to think outside the box if you follow liberal guidelines. Oh, these are approved things. We can talk about that human being, like you young 12-year-old girl, would like to declare yourself a cat. Oh, brave, amazing. Look at her go. No. But if some child says, I want to have prayer time, or start a prayer club, or I don't even know. I personally am not political in that sense, and I don't even know what's going on in the world. And that's okay with me. I think that's fantastic. But the point is having a more open age area for kids to learn from you, from others, from older generations, from kids younger than them and older than them, that is invaluable. I mean, that's what I think creates great leaders. Learning how to, hey, we want to get this game together. Okay, well, I've got to get these people in. Okay, well, how about let me give you a job, because then you'll be included. And now when you have a bunch of 8-year-olds, they're just going to be squabbling and bickering and oh my goodness, it turns real catty. Let's move forward. So the point is socialization. All you really need to do, and what we have found, is having moms groups. And I admit, this summer, actually this year, I kind of fell off the map for moms groups, but we'll be getting back into that and getting your kids together with other families, especially families that are also large and have kids of all different ages. You get them together, man, magic. And they all work together beautifully or fight together beautifully, and then they get to resolve issues. And it's wonderful because they need that opportunity to solve their problems. All right, so your kids are going to be socialized, don't worry. All right, what's my next point? Ooh, they're going to be at a disadvantage to kids with credentials and schooling. Yeah, I see that's a lot of fear right there. And that's fear that I carried as well. And it would make me go back and forth to go, maybe I should get the kids into some kind of curriculum, some kind of regimented thingy so that they had, you know, proper schooling. Because in unschooling, you learn out of curiosity. You want to learn about horses because they're fascinating? Sure. Let's watch some horse movies or documentaries on different types of horses. We're going to go to the library. We're going to check out all these books about horses. She's going to spend time drawing horses and or maybe we're going to go have horse lessons because now we have the freedom to go and do that. There's and then your education is far fuller and more well-rounded on that subject that you find so darn interesting. Can you just take a moment with me and step back into your 8-year-old self? What were you really into? What would you have loved to learn about, spend your day doing than being stuck in school? Maybe it was baking. Maybe it was inventing or trying out some building stuff with wooden nails and not wooden nails, but wood and nails. And, seeing what you could create. Or maybe it was just hanging out in the woods or the art. Maybe you just want to spend all day long doing art, listening to music and diving into it and not having boundaries on time. Childhood is the richest time for exploration and learning. You are a sponge. You can absorb so much. What are we giving our children to absorb when we put them in public school? The, again, there's that question. What do you really need to know to be a thriving adult? And is that even being taught in school? Okay, so a lot of times people feel, well, if my kid doesn't have his high school diploma and then go on to college, then he won't be able to get a good job and he won't be able to provide for his family. Can I rest your mind and say that's baloney? It is. I got a degree and I have never once used it. It honestly didn't help me with anything except possibly for writing a resume, which again never got me anywhere because I was self-employed. And I've always been self-employed for the most part, except for when I worked at a temp agency. And let me tell you, getting a high school degree when you're unschooled is, depending on the state that you live in, can be really simple. Iowa is a great state for that, I tell you what. So there is a lot of fear of being inadequate, not having the right information. But guess what? Public school does not solve that. Almost everybody who comes out of public school feels inadequate as well. They don't know anything. Here's a great example. I spent 6 years learning French, all 4 years of high school, 2 years in college. I went to France. So excited. I got off the train and arrived in a French train station in Paris. I was so petrified that I went to the information desk and I could only speak in English. And I realized at that moment, I didn't know crap. I didn't know anything. After 6 years of learning a language that was meant to be spoken and read, I couldn't do anything with it. That's the quality of what we're doing. It's so pathetic. And that's my experience. But I tell you what, that's most people's experience. It's useless. It's useless. If you really want to go and learn a language, guess what you do? You go to the country where they speak it and you speak it constantly and you listen to it constantly and you absorb it. And within a month, you're yapping away. It's beautiful. It's called practical, hands-on learning. It's how we learn anything. Oh, I'm so sorry. I forgot. I had a tangent about being self-employed. How do you learn anything? When my husband said, like, how do you learn? You wanted to be a photographer, Kelly. How did you learn it? And I said, well, I mean, I looked up tutorials and I just experimented and I went out and I took pictures. He said, yeah, and people are paying you a lot of money and you don't have any credentials. Like, yeah, but they want the pictures and my portfolio is proof of that. That's all life is. Life is, can you do it? And guess what? You can learn it. And you do not need a system that is broken and does not serve you well or your children to get you to be a thriving, not just surviving, but a thriving individual. So your child, if you choose to unschool them, will not be at a disadvantage than other. They probably won't know how to take notes. But in what job besides psychiatry or psychology do you really need to take notes? And oftentimes it's just pretty obvious what someone says that's important. You write it down. Guess what? Someone can learn how to take notes in 15 minutes or less. Oh, that's how you take notes. Okay, got it. Why is this complicated? It's not complicated. Okay, what's next on my list of, oh no, I couldn't possibly do that. What about college? College is useless. Did you know this? It is useless. It is a waste of time. Unless you are going into engineering or something that uses high mathematics or chemistry or something like that, you don't need to go to college anymore. People don't care. There are so many jobs that are, they just want someone. I mean, here's the basis of it. If you have a business and you're employing someone, would you, I know it's like, who gets in the door? Well, the person with a very impressive resume. Well, get creative. But when you get to have an interview, the person who is quick and good at working together and not just, is this going to be on the test? And, chewing their gum. Someone who is actually motivated, which that's what a lot of kids that are not forced to go into the school system, that are allowed the freedom to learn at their own pace. And I tell you what, when they want to learn something, they get voracious. My children are voracious and they are autodidacts. That is for sure. That means self-taught. They teach themselves whatever it is that they are interested in. And now here's an example. You have a child I have a child who is obsessed with Pokemon. And part of me goes, why is this necessary to be obsessed with little cards with little cartoons on them? Well, it's far more than that. It's a system. It's a complicated levels of whatever they are. But you know what he's learning? He's learning how to be an expert at something. And I want my boys to be experts at whatever field they choose to go into. And the best way to become an expert is to be interested in the subject. So your child being obsessed with something, especially your boys, because that's how they are wired, is a great sign that guess what? When they want to, they will apply themselves like crazy. And they can be so laser focused on what it is that they want. And if you raise them to believe that they are capable of achieving basically anything that they set their mind to, and that they can teach themselves into an area, they will go and they will succeed. Something else that's really important about unschooling or homeschooling your kids is you are with them. It is so important, mamas, that you are with your kids. I know lately in my life, I've been very busy with, we did a play together, a community theater production, and half of my family was in it. Me and half my kids were all in it. And that was a really neat experience. But I was away from the house a lot, especially the last 2-3 weeks of the show and prep. We were rehearsing like 4 or 5 hours a night. And I started to feel really I felt like I was working outside the home again. or I had a full-time job. And that disconnection, I was having a remembrance of what it was like before. And man, I hated it because I realized I wasn't invested in my kids. I didn't care so much. I I just wanted to survive. I was exhausted and tired. And yeah, they're fine. Just put another movie on. Let them watch another episode or whatever. Just let them surf YouTube and that's fine. I'm just I don't have anything left in me. Girls, I get it. I've been there. I was there last week. And it's not the way as a woman, that is not fulfilling. But I find my greatest fulfillment is when I have a calmer, quieter life with a whole lot less on my to-do list, but to be a presence with my kids. And that's another thing that unschooling provides is that we are not sitting down. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. Everybody, get your butts in here. Sit down. You didn't do your workbook last time? Well, let me whip you with my tongue. Let me give you however many lashes because, oh, well, you can do better next time. Even the most loving of moms homeschooling their kids with these really strenuous curriculum. Again, in my opinion, I don't think it's good for the kids because I tell you what, I've ran multiple businesses before and I never once, well, I don't know. Let's talk about this. Well, I didn't have anyone whipping me. I had my own to-do list and the things that I needed to get done, and that was stressful enough. But I really don't think that it's something we need to inflict on our children. If our kids are crying at the table because of math or something else, we're doing it wrong. We are. And that's not to say, like, just treat your children like gentle little snowflakes. You don't want to harm any of the little tines on them. No, no, it's not about it's your kids need to do hard stuff. They do. But I really don't think it needs to be math. Maybe you have a bias against math, but I think it's just ridiculous to have kids sitting at, you can't get up and you can't go play outside until you finish that math assignment. Oh, really? What? Oh my gosh. What's going to happen if he doesn't know all of his multiplication table today? Is he going to fail in life? Because I think that's what we set our children up for. Is we tell them through that you are dumb and you will not succeed unless you do this arbitrary thing. Can I tell you again, my absolute non-love of math, I still don't remember my multiplication tables because I have something called a calculator and it saves the day every time I need it. Oh, wow. How do I survive? Shouldn't I be living in a cardboard box in an alley somewhere because I don't remember what 8 times 7 is? Honestly, I don't. And I don't care. I don't care because I don't use that on a daily basis. And again, I have tools at my fingertips that help me with that. So what? Anyway, arbitrary crap. Arbitrary. Let's wrap this up. Okay. For those of you who think, oh, I can't teach my kid everything, I'm inadequate to teach them what they really need to know, that's baloney. Do you know what your kids need to know? They need to know how to deal with their money. They need to be able to experiment with making money and spending money. They need to know how to take care of themselves. Do they know how to do the laundry? Do they? When your kids graduate from high school, are they capable? Could they do everything in the house? Probably not. Probably because you don't have time to teach them if you're so busy, or you're not allowing them because you just want to do it your way, or they're too busy and exhausted and like, well, I don't, that's my job is I'll do the house things. They do all this and they have all the sports and all the different things. And no, I really feel that the more we kick our kids out of our home and keep them busy doing valuable things. Sorry, I'm using lots of air quotes. I think you can tell in my voice, but that we are widening the distance between their hearts and ours. You are the best teacher for your children. Do you know everything? No? Good. I don't either. And I don't need to know everything. But I certainly know enough on how to survive in life. And again, the point is to teach them to thrive. Give them the space to be curious. and inventive and creative. Give them the tools to be able to craft and make things and explore and cook and see science in action, which is called cooking. Like, give them that freedom and see what happens. I tell you what, I see in my kids, I see confident children. I see secure kids. I see kids who can read or look up anything. And a real quick note on reading, you do not need to sit and do phonics. Put the phonics in the garbage can, please. My eldest child learned how to read by playing Minecraft. One day, all of a sudden, he was reading because he was playing Minecraft and he wanted to know the names. He was memorizing because he saw words are just symbols put together. That's what letters are. They're symbols put together that create things. And that's how he, so, oh, this is even better. My 10-year-old, he learned how to read at the age of 5. All of a sudden, he's reading and I said Tennyson because I didn't really sit down with him much. My husband was really good at sitting down with the kids and starting them with a book like Go Dog Go. That was a great one. And he would sit and it's just memorization. And our older daughter, I'll get back to Tennyson, the 10-year-old, but our older daughter, she just memorized Go Dog Go, and she felt so accomplished when she was 6 years old reading. And he'd bring out another book, and she's like, I don't know this one. But eventually, she got there, and now she is a voracious reader. She reads constantly, and she's reading because she wants to all the like tons of classic novels and loving it. Okay, Tennyson, 10. He's reading at age 5. How did this happen? I didn't sit down with him much at all. All of a sudden, hey, babe, how'd you learn to read? From the subtitles on TVs and on the TV movies and episodes, of course. And mind blown. And that as a family, we typically have the subtitles on because we kind of loud. There's so many of us. It's like you got to at least have subtitles on so you know what people are saying because people squawk as we watch. And yeah, so he learned to read simply by having the subtitles on and memorizing movies. So that goes to show you just kind of can't do it wrong. Your kids can learn to read in really painless ways. That doesn't mean that they have to be electronics kids like a lot of mine are, but it does mean that we are it's we are wonderful at learning. Your kids are wonderful at learning. Give them the freedom and the opportunity to do so. Okay, I have one last thing that I want to do. All right. Oh yeah, I already touched on this, but they won't be prepared for careers if you don't put them through public school. That's baloney. That's total baloney. You have a kid who's loves riding bicycles. Give him some tools. Give him a bike he can tinker on. All of a sudden, he knows how to put together and take apart and put together a bike, and he can be a bike mechanic. That's a great job. You have a kid who has, I mean, you have the basic skills. Your child has been playing around with, I don't know, tinker toys, whatnot. They want to become a plumber or like, hey, that sounds like a good solid job. I want to do that. It's easy to get your high school certificate for graduation and go into a technical college and you can, or a vocational school, get those things. You are totally fine. If you want to go into the arts, this is one of the best things you can do for your children. If your kids want to go into the arts, is give them the freedom now to create, to try things, to fail miserably, to succeed brilliantly. Give them the opportunity. Wouldn't you love total freedom to try things out? Wouldn't you love to stay home and paint all day? That sounds really fun to me. Or write. Start now. Start your kids now. If they want to play the guitar for 4 hours every day, let them do it. Not from 8 o'clock to midnight because that's the only time that they can get in. And then they're failing at their school things and disappointing you and causing all these different conflicts within themselves and that give them beliefs that do not serve them, like I'm dumb or I'm incapable or I'll never succeed or I'll never make anything of myself. Those are messages that come from, I think, all of that unnecessary pressure. So There it is. Hot coming at you. It's unschooling for us has been really wonderful. And with very few drawbacks. And the drawbacks is that, real quickly, my girls do really enjoy having structure and having things to do. Give me something to do. They like the worksheet idea. That's something that's easily found. You can find all sorts of that. Me, I'm not much of an administrator, and I tell you, I could have done better with helping my girls with workbooks. But at the same time, I was like, this is dumb. I don't like workbooks. I don't know why they like workbooks so much. It's dumb. But my boys have never given me any problem with not having to do homework, quote unquote. They're totally fine playing. And we get to go on like family little adventures and teaching your kids how to go grocery shopping. Do your kids know how to buy food? Do they know how to put meals together or a meal plan or anything like that that actually would serve them, instead of, oh, let me get a job at Google. Let me do all this education so that then I can get a job at Google, which you're going to get fired and replaced by AI like in the next year or two. So, and then I'm just going to eat at restaurants because I don't know how to cook and I don't have the time or energy to do this. Doesn't sound fun. Like, no, childhood is a treasure for both mama and your kids. And I think we need to give it back to our kids. Give your children back their childhoods. You Can Unschool. Check out Peter Gray's book, Free to Learn. There are a lot of other books out there as well, and tons of groups, Facebook groups and whatnot. And I just want to encourage you that if you decide to go on a homeschool or an unschool journey, there is no right way except the way that works for you and your family. That's the right way. You can do it.